Hello, 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 everybody here on site at Tech Talk, and also hello on stream and on recording somewhere in the future. So watching the recording. Um, Welcome to today's .NET Community Austria April 2025 meetups. As always, hosted by us, .NET Devs AT. We are a non-profit organization here in Vienna, all about sharing .NET knowledge. You find us at the usual places. Thank you all for joining today. Thanks for Tech Talk hosting. So one of these meetups where I have multiple heads. Also working here at Tech Talk. So thanks Tech Talk. Thanks my job for giving us the space here, and afterwards drinks and food. And also thanks to our other sponsors, Rubicon, who supports us financially, and also JetBrains, who gives us a 12 months license to Raffle. And today we raffle a lot, not only the JetBrains license. For the JetBrains license to take part in the raffle, please type hashtag JetBrains in the chat. Also the ones in the audience here if they want to win one. And we perhaps wait 5 minutes after I left the stage because I forgot to start the raffle. So not yet do it. Quick community news. There's one major event happening in May. It's the CodeCrafts conference, and Paul, now it's your keyword. One other things to raffle. But first we'll hear a little bit about the CodeCrafts conference from Paul.
Okay, thank you, Andy. CodeCrafts conference is a conference that's now for the first time here in Vienna. It grew pretty large. It's now around 600 people in the audience, an amazing lineup of speakers. And if you don't know many people on stage, maybe there is one name I would say that is really here to be seen, and that's this one. So Kent Beck is here in Vienna, and I think that's really an amazing opportunity to hear from the godfather of TDD and a lot of other great things in our industry. So really to be excited here, a really amazing lineup. Some guys like Neil Ford or Abraham Pupko already have been here the last years. We have also new faces. And besides the conference, it's a one day, one track conference. So no fear of missing out. You just come there and get everything. We also have the possibility to, let's make the raffle. I just want to hint on that. We also have workshops. We have one workshop day. These are those two workshops that is in the day before the conference, so May 21st. It's about hands-on GPT from training to deployment from two colleagues of mine that are very knowledgeable in that area. And another training that is by my colleague Martin and me. It's about DDD fundamentals, so going to things right about all this domain-driven design stuff and buzz. And in the day after the conference, we have the amazing guys, Neil Ford and Mark Richards, that are talking about software architecture fundamentals and software architecture, the hard parts. They are pretty well known in their area and are amazing speakers, amazing workshop organizers. And we can now go back to the raffle. Okay, the raffle works like this. It's the raffle here for the online for the people in place here tonight. So if you're interested in getting a ticket to CodeCrafts or getting another ticket, then feel free before you leave the room, take one of the stickers, write your name on it, and put it in this basket next to it. And afterwards, Andy or some fairy will pick the winner of the ticket. Oh, it's me. Okay, I'm the fair. Yeah. Okay. They're always small and so yeah. And okay.
That's for the on-site audience for the on stream, and you should probably be in Vienna for the conference, or you come extra. Last week I sent out a message via meetup.com with information how you also can win a ticket. For that you need to send to an email from Square simply to be part of it. So that's the second ticket what we have. So one on-site, one for everybody who is remote.
Okay, so thank you. I guess that's basically it. We have here, yeah, this discount code that you can use to get 10%. If you don't make it for the free ticket, use this discount code to get 10% off the regular price. It's not much at all, so but feel free. If you have any questions, I'm around the whole night, so please, usually the whole night until the end. So let's talk about it, and have a nice meetup. I'm excited to hear your talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. So QR code with the rest of the information. Good. And for that, our next meetup. So the one in June is fixed. So we have in June 5th, we are again here at Tech Talk together with the software architecture meetup. We have Patrick Seil and Tim Paulus here with evolving modern monolith, ensuring layered architecture with architectural fitness functions. Meetup event will go online in the next week with more details, but this is fixed. What we are not yet sure as organized, and quick question then here in the round, as we have now end of April, and the June 5th is begin of June. We are not sure about making a meetup, an event in May. So our current best idea is on May 20th. There's also the Build conference in May. So that's the second day of Build, so that we do a small sit together, a Build one day recap discussion session. So perhaps watch again the keynote from day one, or watch together day two keynotes and discuss what was presented. Quick question is, okay, if you're not interested, who in the audience is interested in such an event? Two maybes. Good. Let's see. Perhaps I send out something on Meetup to check the interest. We all have only limited time available. Good. And with that, I'm finally done with speaking and hand over to the two important guys here. So we have Raul and David, and they also have a very long talk title. It's the Datasync. There's a missing a chart. The Datasync Community Toolkit, integrating data in modern offline clients. Your stage is yours.
Thank you. So, quick change the presentations. So, I have the correct title, but it's a very long name. So, welcome to Datasync Community Toolkit, integrating data in the modern offline clients, with David and me, Raul. So, my favorite hobby is going to the Alps, snowboarding, and visit Alp huts. So, and why we need offline data, because there is no internet. We are in a currently connected world, but some places we need offline data. And yeah, that's the reason we need, some cases we need it. And that's why we have a project with our, with the Data Community Toolkit. So first, social introduction. Both of us, David and I, work for Tech Talk since more than 15 years now in the software development, software architect Tech Talk, lectured at Technikum Wien, David?
Yeah, I'm at TechTalk since about 8 years, and yes, I'm a senior software developer, and yeah, I like working with all things .NET.
So, good. The story behind our customer, we currently have a project, is in the governmental area where we have to writing reports for some cases like obstetrical medicine, Arbeitsmedizin on German. I was searching in the dictionary, or safety specialists, labor law, and taxes, or our laws. So they have to visit some places where you don't have internet connections. So you need the offline data, and you don't want to write the report, waiting that you get the new data when you load some pages, and that's why we have this story. So I think 6 months ago we talked about why we write the WinUI 3 client, and that's the other story behind. So why we need the offline data and why we use the Data Community Toolkit. Yeah, so other reasons is if you don't have internet connection issues, mostly you know it, you have an app, you have the loading screen because you have bad communications, and that's not very productive. So you have to load the data, save it somewhere. It's hard to work. And when you send it and you lose the internet connection, you lose also the data you want to send to the server sometimes. So that was the reason why we use the Datasync Toolkit from Microsoft, or Community Toolkit. And some people know maybe there's something more. There was a history of offline data sync by Microsoft. And first, I want to explain to you where we come from. First, we started some years ago. It was the big Windows Phone 8 and WinApp 8 world with the Asia Mobile Sync service. It was the first step, and they tried to push it very hard. This was only written for the Windows world, and maybe JavaScript, I know. They put authentication, they put push notifications in it, and also data access with the Asia Mobile Sync service. Our project worked with this, and the bad thing was it was only on Asia, and it closed in 5 years ago. But we're currently running it, and I had one pull request on an Asia library because there was a blinking smiley in the past, and I have to update the jQuery libraries because we have a security issue in it, and it was my pull request on an Asia library. So they closed, and we have to move on. So they put the whole project, write it new in ASP.NET Core, and it was the ASP.NET Core data sync. And they put it to the ASP.NET Core team, and they develop it, and it was mostly extension to the OData library of ASP.NET, but they closed it also, I think, last summer. And so they give it to the community. So that's why we started with the Data Community Toolkit. For who doesn't know, the Community Toolkit is an open source repositories, a collection of libraries, and there are some Microsoft developers, as far as I know, who develop it in a free time or get some time to develop it by their own in the Microsoft. Especially the Data Community Toolkit is not one library, also many libraries. It implements the whole syncing stuff for client server systems. And the good part is we synchronize data directly from the database. Yeah, member of the Community Toolkit organization and part of the .NET Foundation. So, how does it work and what are the hard facts? It works with ASP.NET Core on the server side, but on the client side, it's also a .NET library, of course, we're on the .NET meetup. But there are many client implementations about old tech stacks like Avonia, .NET MAUI, UNO platform, the old WPF stuff, and also WinUI 3, the Windows UI library. And I said it's had database support. So it's because every database I think about it, I think so. Azure SQL, Cosmos, SQLite for the offline or client stuff, but also on the server side, you have an in-memory store. but it works with entity frameworks. And if you don't find your database, you can implement your own repository. I show you afterwards or later. So to the server, what does the server do? So any database, you have any authentication, you're not bind to the Azure authentication with the Azure Mobile Service. You have ASP.NET Core, you can use any authentication library you use with ASP.NET Core with robust rules, and you can run the service anywhere. You're not stuck to Azure. You're also possible to run in AWS or on your own server to any cloud provider or even in a container. So it's not fancy. You're set up. So like other syncing libraries, you have to use this service to any service you want to, or any cloud you want to use. So, and what's the point of data synchronization or the data sync is resilience. So you move, you lose connection. As I said, in the Alps, when I'm snowboarding, I don't want to load always the data and want also have on the ski lift, yeah, on the ropes, elevator, on the and on the slopes, the data when I want to see something. So sometimes you have no internet connection and we want to work with no internet connections. Also flexibility, because we store the data whole in a local database. We don't have to wait on the server and can make local updates faster. We can press save and the data is saved locally, and we don't have to wait on the internet connections. And yeah, and with this local database, you can search also faster. You don't have to send the search query to the server and get it back. Yeah, and it's better user experience, of course. So some downsides, because this is different databases. You split up the databases. You have to use global unique keys, because client 1 wants to create the item, client 2 wants to create the item, and then you can use integers for primary keys. You have to use unique integer as a keys. Yeah, that you don't have primary key conflicts. That's the downside, and unique keys are very slow for searching, and you have to put index. That's the current problem in a back application, that we have unique keys not very fast. So other features, we have optimistic concurrency. We have incremental synchronization. You don't have to synchronization all items. You can synchronize one for one. So you don't have to send everything over the bandwidth. Yeah, you can create new items. You can remove items and change other, of course, items. And each data set is isolated, synchronized. So when you have when you push one table, the synchronization must be complete. That's why you shouldn't use depend on forging keys. And we have soft delete, because when one side deletes something, the other side must know if you delete it. You can't delete it hard on one side. So you have to set a soft delete. So you have to set a flag that you deleted. I think I have it on the next slide. Yeah. So you have a column deleted that all other clients know if you delete something. So that's hand over to how the entities have to look like. You have an ID with a global Unix string. No GUID, not C# GUID. It's a string, because we have different databases, maybe, and we have different databases. Our client have a SQLite database on the client side, and on the server side, we have a Microsoft SQL Server, and they have different behavior, what a GUID looks like or could be. That's why we have to have a global Unix string. Then we have updated date, that we get what's new, also with the version control. Everything implemented in the library and not on the server side, so that we don't depend on the database and the soft delete. So if you have many different repositories, there's also AutoMapper repository. I think we don't try it. So you could map a database table to the output with AutoMapper. But the main stuff is the repositories, where you have these 5 methods implemented, that you don't have to implement much logic for the syncing. You could. Maybe with your custom repository, you have only to implement these interfaces, and then you have the sync behavior, maybe. But what we use in some cases in-memory behavior, where we have our queries, where we can't map one table to the syncing object. So we use in-memory repositories, where we load the whole query in memory, and then we do the syncing stuff with the Datasync library. Yeah. And for the rest, the tables we can sync one by one. We use entity framework repositories, where we mix the whole looking stuff to the database. So the other important part is the access control provider. That's the stuff who you implement which user gets which table. So if you make in-flight operations, you can send events when you update stuff in the access control provider. And you also can call methods before you're writing in the database. So maybe you have checks if all fields that you need for consistent data, you can check in the in-flight method of the access control provider, and David will show you this in the code. So the client, so the only thing what the client needs is a HTTP client.net, and then you have the convinced methods to interact with the server-side repository: get, post, update, delete over HTTP clients, and the rest are link methods. So, yeah. What you need, you implement the offline database HTTP client, configure which entities you want to synchronize. You can also have in the framework local-only entities. Maybe you want to save only data local side. You want to don't push up. You have only an attribute. Yeah, pushing data, pulling data, and there's also a method you can resynchronize everything. And you say, hey, my data is so old, I want everything new. And let's lead us to the demo. David.
So, okay, let's switch over to Visual Studio. I've prepared a little application. It's based on what on the scenario Raul explained at the beginning. We are somewhere, no internet is available, in the middle of nowhere, and we can still work on our orders. Yeah, basically it consists of 2 projects. We have the web project, which is our API client, API server, and we have the worker client, which we would install on a mobile or a laptop device, on a laptop, and use it. And yeah, let's start there. Basically, we only have to include some packages. These all the community toolkit packages are what we use, what we need to use a server. Basically, it's most times it's enough to just use server and entity framework core package. But if you want to use in-memory queries, because you can't modify the SQL database, then you need the in-memory package. The Open API package is currently a work in progress. This is for the new .NET 9 and upwards implementation of Open API. So it sadly does not work perfectly at the moment. So we still need to use Swashbuckle for a moment if we want to visualize our the server and the browser. And yeah, the remaining packages are for entity framework. As Ron mentioned, you can use basically whatever provider you want to use. And now let's switch over to our controller. And let's go to, yeah, that's just a simple controller for creating the database. And there we have our orders controller. It's a very simple controller. We have one special thing in addition, which is the post commit hook. We can add a hook after we commit the data to the repository. For example, in this case, we check if the new entity is being cancelled, if the order is being cancelled. We also want to set the soft delete flag, because in our domain we set the cancelled and not the deleted flag, for example. And so every client that previously synced this will delete it also. Then we have our customers controller with repository. This is very basic, very simple. We just access it. And
one more comment of it. So as you see, the only thing you have to implement is you have a controller depend on the table controller with the entity framework customer. It's just an entity type. And you at the entity table repository customer. It's already implemented. That's all stuff you need that you get the server syncing stuff done.
Yeah, exactly. Now, before I want to continue with the in-memory stuff, I like to show you the access control provider. It's just very stupid simple, and don't do this in reality. I just use our bearer token as login name and check our user for the email for the name of it. So this we can use it. It's just normal dependency injection. We can inject whatever we want on services. I just query the database in my case. And there we also have our methods. First, this one determines whether you are authorized to use it. You can also make it dependent on the entry itself or on the table operation you want to perform. That means you can basically say you may not create stuff, but you can read it or you can modify it. Yeah, and then we have again pre and post commit hook, which serve a similar purpose as the ones in the controller. And there is the get data view. This is returns an expression because it goes into the query for the database, and it basically says, can I view this? Am I allowed to view this entry at all? So whether I will get it synced. The difference to it's authorized is I'm authorized to do an action itself at all, and this is for which entries I want to sync. So in this case, I just filter by user ID, but you could, or user ID and status. So I don't want to see canceled orders. Yeah, that's basically it. The remainder is just registration and the models. Yeah, it's just some registrations on the server side, and yeah, as I said, I have to use Swagger and Swagger UI for it at the moment.
Yeah. The important add services when you scroll up, the add Datasync service, it's that you map the controllers to the sync service, and it calls all the stuff.
Yeah. So then we have the client. Walk over it. It's basically just a plain, simple WPF app. Just shows us our orders and some information about it. Yeah, we can manually synchronize it, and yeah, it looks like this. We have our models. There I have had needed to implement a special class because for the server, maybe that's interesting. For the server, we get this entity table data table, which we have to use if we use entity framework repositories with Datasync. If we take a look at it, this is the table Raul spoke of, where we have updated that version, and then in the base entity we have ID, where we have our string ID. Yes, and as you see, I have JSON ignored our navigation properties because we use lazy loading proxies, and they would be synchronized too and may override stuff, or we don't want every information on the client. So yeah. And the client, we don't get this. We need to implement something ourselves. And there we have the Datasync client data, a table I made, class I made it. So we just simply have to use it once for every field. And yeah, that's basically it. The rest is, the remainder are just entities and some services. There in our repository, we implement, because we are an offline app, we implement the offline DB context in our DB context. And there, for example, we have our repositories, our DB sets, sorry, and this method basically initializes, prepares our HTTP client for Datasync and configures the entities for how and where they are synced in which sub URL, and there we have our endpoint. We can attach an entire pipeline like middleware. I've just added a simple auth provider. Yeah. And there we could use something very complex like a service where we get our real authentication token. And yeah, then synchronizing works basically very simply. We just use our DB context, and we have the method push async, where we can select which tables we want to push to the server, and there we have the pull async method, in which we can pull the data from the server. And yeah, there are some. Okay, the remainder is just another implementation for the HTTP pipeline where we can log stuff if we want. But for simplicity's sake, I didn't include it yet. Yeah, and we have also basic view model. It's just the model behind our view. So, and now I will start it once and hope that everything works. Yeah, our client is there. Okay, and our Swagger UI is there. To be safe, let's recreate our database. It worked. And now I will sync my orders. Let's see what happens. Okay, there are. That's the case Raul talked about before. It's very simple. I didn't delete entities, and I should only have 2 orders. But I have a pre-existing database, so we need to handle this by just throwing away my database. It's here, just our client DB. Let's delete it, and now let's restart the application. So, okay, now I will synchronize, and I have my orders. my 2 new orders. Maybe I will zoom in a little bit to make it more visible. There are my orders. I can now complete the order. It's not visible at the moment because my logic doesn't implement it, but I can synchronize and it will refresh. And now it's completed. I can't cancel and I can't complete it anymore. And you see the checkbox. It just indicates now we have completed it. And now I will again close it and switch to and delete my database. Just to demonstrate, I don't want to get my data, but because now I'm not, it's not me, it's Raul who's using the app, and he needs to see his orders and not mine. So now we enter our name. And now we synchronize. Now he has his orders. Yeah, that's basically the authentication, because I filter his orders and mine orders by the username, and I can cancel and complete the orders. Yeah. Okay. Good. That's it for the application. I think we can go more into deep, because there is something I omitted from the web project, and this is our in-memory table. I didn't show it in the app, but we have an in-memory table. We also sync to the client, just some simple stats about our customer. And it's just, we aggregate the orders for this month. And could do more with it, but for now I just aggregate the order and I select it into our in-memory repository, which is also strongly typed to the in-memory customer. But as we can see, this now derives from the in-memory table data class instead of if we would go to a real entity, we derive from entity table data. And that's the difference. The in-memory table data indicates that we don't want to persist it. And in our case, I also overrode our create, delete, and replace actions, because we don't need them, and if we do it that way, we also don't see them in the Swagger. And this is not it's not necessary if you use an access control provider, but if you can also already describe in the Swagger file that you don't support these methods, then I think that's a good way to do it. Yes, and yeah.
Questions so far? So it's a little bit hard to imagine with internet. Yes? Yeah.
Thank you. I have one question regarding the assigned users. So we have on the domain entity, we have inherited assigned user property. That means every row, every record will have assigned user to the row, to the entity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if some user have access to multiple entities, or some user can have access to multiple entities. How we will work on that? Because as I saw, we filtering out the records by the assigned users, the one that are from me as a user. I can see only those. What if we want to see records from other users as well?
Then you have to implement the access control provider differently. When you see more entities.
Right.
So start the server and go to the Swagger. Primarily, thinking framework is just OData. You can filter how you want. So you could get, say, at customers, and when you're allowed to see the entities from different users, you just query it. Try out. So I should.
I might too. Okay. It might not work now because of authentication.
Yeah. So and it's just normal filtering, like each normal request, but you have the authorization layer, and the user only sees this. You could see on the in the access control provider. That's
thank you.
So in our case, you're not only the user only allowed to see his orders or his reports. But when you we have also data like so Wirtschaftsklassen, economy classes for each user, and we don't have access control provider because we wanted each user get all entries from the table. We don't have an access control provider. It's up to you what you implement on the access control provider, and you don't have to change the table. You don't have to write a query or make for each request other implementation. You also make this access control provider implementation, what you allowed to see and what you get back.
What you can also do is make it generic if you want to apply it to multiple entities.
Yeah.
It doesn't. I just did it a very simplest way. It's just one entity per access control provider, but you can also make this generic and use your own validation logic whether you want to sync it. And in our case, we have in our customer's case, we have other entities attached to our order. And so we wanted to make it very simple to use and only use one access control provider for most of them. And they only check whether you can access this, whether the currently logged in user can access the order and not the entity itself.
Good, then back to the presentation. So. Yep. Whoops, first. So we have some lessons learned. As I said, string goods as primary key is very hard on the database side because it's very slow indexes, and we have to rewrite our whole database that we can use instead of long IDs. I think we have long IDs or int ID primary keys to move to string goods, and then we look at performance because the Datasync framework goes down to our table. Then, first of all, in the client, there was no lazy loading in the entity framework core implementation, and we have to implement it by your own. And this was our first pull request in the community toolkit that we the data community could support lazy loading because they said no fortune keys. So we make a small implementation that we support fortune keys. Soft deletes is a hard concept to get it from all sides because in the past we delete the rows. So we have to remit soft delete to all our entities. So and the other stuff when we want to make a complete sync, we also have to delete. So this is called delta tokens, where the Datasync framework makes a check if something changed. And we have to delete all that we get the refreshed data every time, especially for data where we insert at different time zones or different times. Yeah, good. So bad queries on the server side, when you use in-memory repositories or your customer repositories, leads to very long syncing time. So at first, I think in the last 2 weeks, we're working that we power up our syncing time, and we had for the first syncing with all data, we have 10 minutes. I think now we are up to 30 seconds because we wrote our queries better on the server side, and we're always working, hey, it's the client is lazy and the framework is slow. No, it was bad querying on the server side. Yeah, and it's when you have a very high complexity with more than 50 tables, dynamic data, it's not the best syncing framework for you. Then it's you should think about write your own syncing framework or look at the Datasync Community Toolkit, take the best parts. But for smaller applications, with up to, I think we have 50 tables, it's good. It's a very good syncing framework. Yeah. So, are there questions? Which questions are there? Always ask open questions. Yeah. Mike?
Sorry, this might be a bit naive, but is this all about basically that you synchronize a local database with a remote database?
Yes.
That's what it is basically. So it's not file-based or anything, but it's really table-based. How do you deal with larger databases, like, I don't know, 10,000, 100,000 of rows? You have to store that locally, all of it, right? Or
yes. Also we try
at least
to,
the stuff that you need, you have to store locally.
Yeah, we have a lot of rows because I think we have in public space we have a lot of reports, a lot of companies where we have all records. We have to query only for this data what we need currently for current orders or current reports, syncing down, because syncing all the data from our big back office database, it would be hard for the client, and the client has 300 gigabytes databases. So we have to write our queries very good and only sync this data what the user allowed to see and what the user needs currently is can report. So
but I mean, how do you deal? Say there's a query over a very large table where you need to read every single row. That's probably doesn't work properly.
Yeah, then as I said, for complex big data, it's not the perfect. So it would work. I think it's also work between two servers, of course. When you have two servers and you want to sync, but I think there are better options than between two servers syncing. I think it's good when you have an offline client where you need a small piece of the data syncing. Two servers, it would be not the best framework.
This is maybe it's me, I don't know. But this is also where our Delta tokens come into action, because each time on the client I do a sync, a Delta token is generated, which says about what was the last date I synced, and the updated add field in the database on the server is checked against it in the query. So we also only get 0 entries if we didn't update anything. So basically the first sync would take a longer time maybe, but after that it's just up to the database speed.
I have a question. I was wondering which additional tools were you using to develop your solution. For example, I saw in Visual Studio a little icon next to the entity table data. Are there some IDE plugins that you used or some standalone tools that helped you build this?
Yeah, I think you mean this little database symbol on the entity. Yeah. It's ReSharper.
Mm-hmm.
The ReSharper shows you if you have an entity framework identity. So you can win a ReSharper license if you start with the Raffle. Then you have also these features. So currently, yeah. So just a little help there to see this is the database object, not the DTO object.
Some other additional tools that helped you build?
No, so
only the open source.NET tools for like the .NET EF tools.
Yeah. So for the client, on the client side, we have a SQLite DB They use two extensions, the DB browser to open the SQLite database, and there's also the Visual Studio extension from Eric. I don't know how the extension is called, but that we can open the SQLite database, because in the first you have to look up in the data which data you get, and you don't want the whole UI written, and you split up the stories to UI and data syncing. Yeah.
So
live effect we don't have. So yeah.
So now.
So this when you the DB browser for SQLite, when you work with SQLite. I try other stuff, also the JetBrains data tool. Yeah, but it's the simplest one, and yeah, that's how it looks like. Behind you have the Delta tokens database, where for each table the token was the last sync, and yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and then you have the grooves operation. It saves all the operation. What is the next? What you want to sync.
Yeah, that's basically also how it's implemented and how it's very efficient at pushing, because it doesn't walk over our stuff and pushes all of it, but we store what we changed and then we push it.
Yeah, so it would also be possible to how we make it with button clicks, and our customer wants it with button clicks, but you could also sync in background, that you're always syncing when you have an internet connection. So, and that's how it works. It looks at the queue, is something to sync, please sync. If no, then you don't need a connection. Yeah. And yeah, I have the value. So I think okay. Other questions? Yes? We'll fight about it.
Thank you. So we just spoke about the synchronization. Is there any configuration for that, or just the whole synchronization is out of the box from the library? Can we change that if we need, for instance?
Yes, there. So I think you have to override the methods, but everything else comes from the library. You have some options to change, like how the path is generated. So David's in the client on the client side, but everything else you want to change, you make it override on the methods you want to change, and it's very good. So yeah, so as we said, we changed something in the code behind that we have lazy loading support, and they don't. First of all, they don't synchronize all tables or only some fields. We a little bit extend the library, but the whole configuration go to the.
It's basically that, but you can also configure your JSON options, for example, how you want to serialize if you have some special cases where you need to filter stuff or something like that.
Yeah, not normal HTTP stuff. So for configuration.
Yeah.
So, Howard.
Thank you for the talk. Do you think that could also work for browser-based, say, Blazor applications?
It would be a good idea. It doesn't work.
Okay.
If you want an explanation, it's in the documentation why it doesn't work for Blazor currently. I think because it doesn't have a SQLite support on the client side. On the server side, of course.
Sure.
And in the online mode, I think because SQLite isn't currently running in Blazor WebAssembly. Yeah.
Okay, so there's no support for the web databases.
No, currently not.
Okay, thank you.
So, other questions? Questions from the people at home? So then, thank you for listening, and I give it back to Andy.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Normally, yeah, I show the people every speaker, first time speaker, gets a coaster with our logo. Sorry, you're not first time speaker this this time. We need to think about something for repeated speakers. Albert, thank you for giving the talk. Yeah, thank you all for joining here and on stream. Yeah, thanks to Rubicon and JetBrains. And now the first raffle begins. So the JetBrains raffle. We make it on a different machine. Stefan draws the lucky one. Okay, the stream sees it, but we don't. Okay, only two. René or das Käsemuffin. And the winner is René. Okay, and here's the location. So please come afterwards to me to get your voucher. Also for the people here in the audience, don't forget to put your name into the raffle for the CodeCrafts conference. Only one entry per person, please. Good. And yeah, to the end, yeah, we always want to improve these events. For that, we need your feedback. As usual, link, QR code for the feedback. I think Stefan also shares this on chat. Thank you. And with that, see you next time. Bye.